Right, so picking up where we left off, we have got the BBC logo nicely in this top bar here, and we've got the beginnings of our sign-in area with the little sign-in logo there as well. So we were looking at getting some padding put in to the left of this div here. Just before we do that, we're going to need to float that div left as well, because we want all of these to float to the left and be on the same line essentially. So let's just see how that looks. Okay, we've now got our padding. I think we've probably padded it a little bit too far. So let's change the left padding there to 20 pixels. Okay, that's looking pretty good, I think. Great. Now we're going to need this border on the right of this div as well. So it's going to be the same type of border that we used before. Let's just have a look, see how that works. Okay, now that's good. It's about in the right place, but you can see it's not quite tall enough. Now that's because we haven't got any padding on the bottom, which means that our div doesn't actually go all the way to the bottom. The div stops there. So there's a couple of ways we can get around that. I think probably the easiest way is just to add some padding on the bottom here until it all matches up nicely. That's pretty good. I think we need a couple more pixels. Great. Nice. That's all the way down to the bottom. I'm just zooming in there. That's a useful thing to do when you want to make sure that everything matches up nicely. Okay, so now we've got our sign-in div. We need to start doing these extra divs here, so news, sport, weather, etc., etc. I'm not going to do those as separate divs because they all have a very similar pattern. I'm actually going to do these as an unordered list. So let me show you how we're going to do that. So underneath our sign-in div, we'll have another containing div, and we'll call it top menu div, and we'll close that div there. And the only thing so far that we need for the top menu div is that it should float left with all the other divs. Okay, now so within this we're going to have an unordered list, which so far we've seen is mostly a bullet point list, but actually it can be much more powerful than that, and we can use it for a variety of different things, and it's very commonly used for menus and things like this essentially. So let's just start with our first one. So news is going to be our first list, so we'll save that, see how it looks. Okay, not great. So we need to first of all get rid of the bullet point and then work out our padding, etc., etc. So what we do, we want to get together all the LIs in the top menu div, and we want to change the list style to none. So if I do that, that should take away the bullet point there. Very nice. Okay, that's great. Now we want to move this around a little bit. I think it's about the right size. Maybe we could have a bold to get it a little closer to the look there, and probably a little bit smaller as well. So we'll say font size 0.9 EM. Okay, now that's good. It's a little bit too far down, I think, so let's see what's going on here. I suspect the LI is putting in some automatic margins. Nope, it's not that. What about padding? No, it's not that either. Okay, let's have a look at the top menu div UL. See what that's doing. See if there's some margins being set there. I'll just get rid of that padding. Okay, so there we've got our margin at the top sorted. So we want to move that down a little bit. So let's change that to, let's say margin top 5 pixels. See how that looks. Okay, a little bit further down, I think 10 pixels. Okay, looks good. Now we've got slightly too much space on the left, I think. So let's find out what's causing that. Possibly some padding in that div there. Possibly a margin in that div there. Nope. Okay. Let's just have a look at the padding here. Okay, excellent. So sometimes you need to sort of fiddle around a little bit to get an idea of what's causing everything to display in the way that it is. So that's good. So let's change the padding to the left to be, in fact, we're going to need some more padding, I suspect. So let's have 0 on the top. Let's have 20 pixels on the right. 0 on the bottom for now, but we'll probably change that, and another 20 on the left. Okay, so that looks about right in terms of padding on the left, and so it should be okay at padding on the right as well, but we're going to need a border on the right as well at the end of each li. Okay. So you can see the borders appeared there, but we don't really want it there. We want it further out. So I think what we're going to need to do is move this padding down, and we'll put the padding on the li instead of the UL. So we want the padding on each individual list item, not on each UL. So let's see how that looks. Okay, so we've got 0 padding there, that's great, but we do want some padding here. Oops. Missing semicolons can cause all sorts of issues. Okay, great. So now we've got that padding on the right there, that's great. So now we're going to need to actually get rid of this margin top up here, because we want this border to be on the right of each li, and this margin top means that the li actually starts about here, which we don't want. So let's change the margin for the UL to be 0, and we'll put the padding in instead for the li. Okay, great. Now we're going to need to add some padding at the bottom as well to make it go all the way down. Another couple of pixels. Let's just zoom in. That looks great. Okay, fantastic. So now the nice thing about that is we don't need to style the rest of them. All we need to do is copy and paste them all in. So what have we got? Sport, weather, iPlayer, TV, radio. I'll type those in as quickly as I can. Just copying and pasting here. So sport, weather, iPlayer, TV. I need 2 more. Radio and more. Oops, that hasn't worked. Ah, interesting. So what's gone on there? So pause the video for a second and see if you can figure out why on earth it's done that. Did you get it? Well, what's actually happened is each of the list items has floated beneath each other because I haven't told them to float left. And the reason you can't see any of the words is because they're all in white. So they're there, but they're all in white. So that should be an easy fix. Just a matter of floating each list item to the left. There we go. Great, it's beginning to take shape now and actually look reasonably like the top part of the BBC website. Okay, great. So now we've just got this search bar to fill in, and that should be simple enough. So that we're going to use a separate div. So to put the search box in, we'll have a new div, I think, for that. So we'll call it search div. Again, I'm using IDs all the way here because I know there's only going to be one of each of these. And in that search div, we're going to want an input box with a type of text. So let's just save that and see how it looks. Oof, not great. Okay, so we're going to need to see what's going on. Okay. So there's our search box. It's not too bad. We do need to move that, give it a bit of padding, make it a little bit wider, and get this search word in there as well. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's first of all get our search div floated to the left. And we'll give it a bit of padding as well. Let's guess at around 8 pixels. Okay, not bad. I think it does need to be a bit taller, that input, doesn't it? So we'll grab the search div input and we'll change the height to, let's try 25 pixels. Okay, that hasn't made much difference. Just try 35 pixels. That hasn't made much difference at all either. So search div. Oops. See, I'm keeping all the errors in on purpose because, yep, you'll come across these, I'm sure. Miss out an R and everything goes mysteriously wrong. Right, so now it's too tall. So let's go back to my 25 pixels that I thought would be about right. Yeah, I think that's probably about right. I think we need then a little bit less padding. So let's try 5 pixels. Yeah, that looks good. I think we need a little bit more padding on the left, maybe. So we'll have 5 pixels on the top. We'll sort out the right and bottom padding if we need to later on, and we'll have 10 pixels on the left. Okay, that looks nice. Now, this has no border as far as I can see, so we're going to turn off the border by saying border is none. Okay, that looks good. And now if we start writing there, we definitely want that text to be a little bit bigger. And we're going to want a bit of padding there as well, I think. So let's put a bit of padding, maybe 3 pixels for now. Okay. And I think we want a little bit more padding on the left. So, and we also want the font size to be a little bit bigger. So we'll go for 1.2 EMs and we'll have the padding as 3 pixels on the top, 0 on the right, 3 pixels on the bottom, and then 10 pixels on the left. And now we've lost it completely. Why is that? Let's just get rid of that. And we get it back. So let's add those one by one. So font size 1.2 EMs. It doesn't like that for some reason. Okay, let's try putting in an absolute font size. There we go. Okay, so the font size was too large. So let's make it a bit smaller. Okay, that's better. Okay, that's nice. I'm liking that, but we do need our padding. So let's change padding left to 20 pixels. A little too much. 10 pixels. Great. Okay. Last but not least, we need that search to go in there, but we want the search text to disappear, so we use the placeholder option there. Nice. Okay. Right, so the last thing on this line is we want that nice little magnifying glass there, which just makes it really clear that that's what we want to do. We want to search. And the way I'm going to do that, again, there's a number of different ways to do it, but I'm just going to show you one. This is actually a new bit of CSS that we haven't seen before. So I will take a screenshot of that in the same way that I did the others. There it is. We'll call it magnify. And I'll just drop that into the images folder so I can refer to it. Bring this back. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set this magnifying glass as a background image on the actual input itself. So let's see how we do that. We go up to the input and we set background image to, we want to give it a URL, and the URL is images/magnify.png. Okay, let's switch back over to here. Aha! Right, so it's a start, but it's not exactly what we want. So I'll link this up in the doc for the course, but if you want to have a look at background images in a bit more detail, again, W3 Schools has got a really nice few pages on it. Particularly what we want to do two things. We want to align the image to the right, so we want to have it just over here, and we want it not to repeat. So if we have a look down here, we can see where to do that. So let's stop it repeating first. So we want to set background repeat to none. We don't want any repeating at all. So this is the option that we want, background image, no repeat. So I'll just copy and paste that, background repeat to be no repeat. Okay, let's have a look. So great, so now we've only got it once, but we do want to decide where it's going to be. There's a couple of different ways we could do this once again. So first of all, we'll look at background position. So that option allows you to center the background. You can align it to the right, the bottom, etc., etc. I think we'll go for aligning it to the right and centering it. That makes the most sense to me. So again, let's copy and paste. Background position, right and vertically centered. Okay, that looks pretty good. Fantastic. So I'm happy with that top line. As I've said, it's not exactly the same as the BBC's, but it's pretty similar, and it'll get the job done for now. So I'm going to pause the video there, and then we'll restart again and look at doing this lighter red bar next.